The 2024-25 NBA season is literally 3 weeks away, and we still don't know who the starting five will be for your Golden State Warriors when they take on the Portland Trail Blazers in the season opener. Steve Kerr said that competition will shape the Warriors starting lineup as they are in Hawaii right now for training camp. We're going to dive into all the competition that's going to be going on for the Warriors starting five on today's show. But before we do, I think the biggest competition for this Warriors roster comes at the shooting guard position. Who's going to start next to Steph out of these three guys right here? If it's Brandin Podziemski, give me a BP. If it's De'Anthony Melton, give me a DM. And if it's Buddy Hield, give me a BH. And we'll get on with today's show. What's going on, Dub Nation? You're watching Warriors Today by Chat Sports. I am your host, Tyler Smith. And on today's show, Steve Kerr does not yet know who the starting five for his Golden State Warriors will be this season as we're 3 weeks away from the season opener. He said that there is competition across the board for basically anybody not named Steph Curry to try to earn themselves a starting spot in this Warriors rotation. Here's what Steve Kerr had to say about Golden State's starting five. He said, it's not as simple as who's going to be the two. It's got to be who's going to be the five, who's the four. We know that Steph is the one, but what's the combination? Man. There were a lot of combinations for the Golden State Warriors last season. In 2023-24, Golden State featured 27 starting lineups. Are you serious? When I saw that number, I was like, I didn't know how to check how many different starting lineups were across the NBA. That has to be by far the leader in the clubhouse. I mean, if you want to talk about last season and what went wrong for Golden State, it was the inconsistencies. It was the fact that Steve Kerr couldn't find a concrete lineup that was successful for this Golden State Warriors team. It never came to fruition. He was incredibly inconsistent. So you have to find a way to, you have this embarrassment of riches in the depth department, right? A lot of guys who could be real rotation pieces on every roster in this league, but you have like 10, 11, 12 of them. You got to find a way to have a consistent rotation so this team really just gets into a flow, gets into the flow of things, and can create success and build chemistry together as the season goes on. But as far as what Steve Kerr thinks this Golden State roster is going to look like in training camp and how things are going to shake out, here's more of what he had to say about the starting five. He said the starting lineup is going to have to be dependent not only on the first five fitting, but the second fitting as well. We've got a lot of work to do to figure out lineups. All the guys can do is compete, play their tails off. And I'm excited. Honestly, I'm excited to see who proves themselves in this Warriors rotation. There's guys that we have coming in from free agency, like Buddy Hield, De'Anthony Melton, Kyle Anderson. We got guys coming in, on their rookie deals, like Brandin Podziemski, Trace Jackson-Davis, Moses Moody, Jonathan Kuminga. Those two are fighting for big-time money that they'll be facing in free agency next summer. So there's going to be a ton of competition. And listen, only the best will end up on top. Like, we're in a good position here to where we have a ton of guys who we think can play in this rotation, but only the best will show themselves in training camp and into the 2024-25 NBA season, where they'll be rewarded with big-time playing time. Now, we know who is going to have playing time on this roster, and Steve Kerr already alluded to it. Steph is the only person that he knows is definitely locked into the starting lineup, but let's be honest here. Is Draymond Green coming off the bench? I doubt it, especially with how thin the Warriors are in the front court and how thin they are facilitation-wise and with initiators of offense. They don't have a ton on the roster. Draymond Green is one of those guys. He's going to need to be in the starting lineup, in my opinion. The rest, in my opinion, will depend on how Kerr wants to play. We heard from him talking to the media about how he wants to be a really, really high-volume three-point team. Now, you'd think over the last 10 years, Golden State, they revolutionized the three-point shot and how it's taken over offenses in the NBA. They've kind of fallen behind now in the way that teams are running offenses. You look at the Celtics and Joe Mazzulla last year, run and gun. Threes and layups. Get up more three-pointers than your opponent and play the math game, play the numbers game in how you're going to, beat teams in this league. So that's a big, factor in who is going to start at the two guard, at the three, at the four. We know Steph and Draymond are going to start, but who else is going to fill in the gaps? I have a good idea as to how the wing position will be kind of shaped out here. I didn't put positions on Andrew Wiggins or Jonathan Kuminga. I find it very hard to believe that these two won't start, with Steve Kerr signaling that Andrew Wiggins is likely going to be the second scoring option on this team, and Jonathan Kuminga took a big-time leap last year and is playing for a big-time contract that he'll hopefully receive in 2025. But I find it very hard to believe that they were willing. They held him out of all these trade talks this summer, and they're not going to start the guy. So you pay Andrew Wiggins $26 million. Steve Kerr championing him as the second scoring option. He's going to start. Jonathan Kuminga, big time leap last year. good, solid defender, but you're going to need to have him in the lineup as well. I don't think there's any way that either one of these guys isn't in that starting rotation when the season rolls around. So the position that feels like the biggest real competition, the kind of only competition on the rosters, I think there's 4 solid guys that are solidified in that starting lineup, is the shooting guard spot. Now, we asked you guys at the beginning of the video, who did you think would be the starting shooting guard next to Stephen Curry? Here are your options. According to Steph, according to Steve Kerr, Brandin Podziemski, De'Anthony Melton, Buddy Hield. Each of these 3 offer a different skill set and a different dynamic that they can offer into this Warriors roster. Just going to have to see which pairings fit, who fits best next to Stephen Curry to be in that starting lineup and probably the closing lineup, if we're being completely honest. Here's what Steph had to say about the 3 potential starting shooting guards. He said, we have a defensive-minded guy like Melton. You've got a guy who's kind of a connector, can put the ball on the floor, create like Brandin Podziemski. Me and BP started a couple of times last year. You got Buddy Hield, who can shoot and space the floor, a veteran who knows how to play. We've got a lot of options. So, with that being said, do you believe in Steve Kerr to get this right? Do you think he can get it done? I want to hear from Dub Nation right now. Let me know down in the comment section if you believe in Steve Kerr or not to get the rotations right for Golden State this season by typing Y for yes or typing N for no. This will be the pinned comment on today's video. So YouTube's going to throw you an ad break right here. Go down below in the comment section, answer our question, and we'll get on with the rest of the show. So as far as how we're going to deep dive into this starting shooting guard spot, there's different routes that Golden State could go here. If they want to go in the youth route, we're going with Brandin Podziemski. Listen, they held him out of trade talks this year just like they did with Jonathan Kuminga. They actually, in my opinion, were more bullish on keeping Brandin Podziemski out of trade talks than Jonathan Kuminga. Maybe that was due to the financial restraints and how cost-effective Brandin Podziemski's contract is, only being around a $3 million, $4 million a year deal on his rookie deal right now with still 3 more years of team control. He's only heading into year 2. But I'm not going to lie, man. Last year, when he went into the starting lineup, most of his work was done off the bench, where he was putting up consistent numbers across the board. But, man, look at the efficiencies when Brandin Podziemski was in the starting lineup versus when he came off the bench. And this comes with a little bit more volume as well. If you especially look at the three-point percentage, he had 104 three-point attempts in the 28 games started. He actually had 130 attempts in the 46 games off the bench. So more volume, more about a three-pointer and a half extra per game when Brandin Podziemski was in that starting lineup, and the efficiencies went down. I know that Brandin Podziemski's been working a ton in the offseason, but he's going to be tasked with a big-time duty this season as Klay Thompson departed for the Dallas Mavericks. There's going to be a major uptick in Brandin Podziemski's three-point shooting volume and overall shooting volume. They said that they're going to want him to be taking 8 to 10 three-pointers a game. I can't have 8 to 10 three-pointers a game at 34%. That's just not how we should be running things here in Golden State. But as far as Brandin Podziemski's role on this team goes and where he should fit in the rotation, I'm not sure you can start him next to Steph. He's the one, and not for any reason, negative for Brandin Podziemski, but the only reason that I don't think you can start him next to Steph is because of the lack of facilitation on the back end. You don't really have anybody off the bench who's going to go out there and initiate offense. Do you really want Kyle Anderson bringing the ball up every play? Like, you guys tell me that Kyle Anderson, Draymond Green, these guys bring up the ball, they initiate. Do you guys want that every play? I don't. So with Brandin Podziemski being one of the only players I trust to initiate offense consistently, the move could be, in my opinion, to bring him off the bench and have him run that second unit, because he would do it flawlessly and it would give him a lot of responsibility. I mean, honestly, in my opinion, potentially even help him grow more as a player with that type of responsibility as the main point guard of Golden State's second unit. We'll get to more on the starting shooting guard in just a moment. Before we do, I got to get you guys dripped out this fall. Look fresh this autumn with a Golden State Warriors polo. Chatsports.com/Warriors polos right now. We got the blue, we got the black, we got the yellow, we got the white. Any type you want. And you might even be able to find a 25% off deal when you go there. Shout out our friends over at Fanatics. Use this link down below, chatsports.com/Warriors polo, to get yourself a fresh-looking Warriors college shirt today. Listen, I'll put that link in the comments and description of today's video to make it easy for you guys. Chatsports.com/Warriors polo. So, if they want to go the defensive route, remember, Steve Kerr said that we have to figure out how things are going to fit. Who is going to mesh the best together? We have to also be courteous of the second unit and how those guys are going to fit. So that kind of relates back to Brandin Podziemski in him being the only facilitator for that unit. If they want to go the defensive route, De'Anthony Melton is your guy. Now, De'Anthony Melton, in my opinion, has a lot to prove this season. He's coming off a year where he only played 38 games, had a lingering back injury, and that's something that is scary to a lot of teams, front offices, coaches. De'Anthony Melton needs to overcome that because with the contract they signed to him this offseason, it was 1 year, $12.9 million, the mid-level exception. But many people thought that De'Anthony Melton deserves more. De'Anthony Melton was valued at much higher, upwards of $20 million annually for this man. And you can see on your screen, like, the numbers are good. Like, he's a defensive menace, great point of attack defender, great energy guy, knocks down the open three, doesn't have a huge shot diet outside of the three-point line, but he's a good 3-and-D player, combo guard that this Golden State Warriors team needs as far as, just straight up defensive menaces who can also produce on the offensive end. That's why I like De'Anthony Melton a little bit more than a guy like a Gary Payton. Now, if you look at what De'Anthony Melton has done defensively over his career, you look at these two numbers. He's regressed in the last 2 years mightily from this 106.5 number. I mean, that would rank at the top of the NBA. He was a part of a good team defense here in Memphis. And De'Anthony Melton was a huge contributor to that. Many people called him one of the peskiest defenders on Stephen Curry in the entire NBA. It was crazy that they didn't even deploy him more when they played in the 2022 playoffs. But then you go to this Philly team last year, and his defensive rating's not that great. This has a lot to do with the team defense that you're on, and let's be honest here, Philly's team defense wasn't that great last year. I looked at a couple of his teammates, like Joel Embiid. He actually had a great defensive rating of 108.9. But you know who played worse? Guys who played more in the lineup. Kelly Oubre and Tobias Harris each had a 114.2 defensive rating in 2023-24. So I'd say that De'Anthony Melton positively contributed to the defense of Philly. He obviously positively contributed to the defense of the Memphis Grizzlies, and I think he will absolutely contribute to the high-level defense of the Golden State Warriors because Steve Kerr wants to hang his hat on that. Stephen Curry also said that we also, to be competitive, we have to have a hell of a defense. That's what we're most interested in. Well, if that's what you're most interested in, De'Anthony Melton might just be your guy. Now, the last man up on this list is our guy, Buddy Hield. Signed this year, 3 years, $27 million, so they're going to play him. He's going to be in the rotation, that's for sure, especially with the void that Klay Thompson leaves and the reliability that you've had with Buddy Hield over the past decade. If you want to go the floor spacing route, then Buddy is your guy. Now, he came to Golden State. The reason he signed with the Warriors is because of the play style, because of his opportunity to come here and run off of screens, curl off on the wing, and hit open shots, being able to get open threes, especially with a guy like Steph Curry, who defenses are magnetic towards. Listen, Buddy Hield, he'll be sitting with a lot of open three-pointers this season, and I'm excited for that because he's one of the best shooters in this league over the last decade. I mean, catch and shoot three-point percentage, and keep in mind, this is on a fairly down year for Buddy Hield relative to the rest of his career. But catch and shoot three-point percentage, 39, solid. Corner three, 43. That's exactly what we need for this team. Above the break three, 37. Could be better, but not bad mark at all. Three-point rate, 66.8%. So more than 2/3 of his field goal attempts are from beyond the arc. Love to see that. And the true shooting percentage at 57.8 is solid as well. And if Buddy Hield ends up being in the starting lineup, he's going to have big-time volume behind the three-point arc. In his career, that's proven to be a big-time positive for Buddy Hield. When Buddy Hield shoots more than 7.5 three-pointers a game in a season, he is absolutely lights out. I mean, listen, a lot of these numbers are from a long time ago when Buddy Hield was the number one option on a bad Sacramento Kings team. But man, numbers don't lie. On 7.9 attempts, 43%. On 9.6 attempts, 39%. On 10 attempts a game, 39%. And on 8.5 attempts a game just 2 seasons ago, the man shot 42.5%. You can't argue with the numbers. But at the same time, I don't think you can start him next to Stephen Curry with the defensive limitations that Buddy Hield does have. Listen, Stephen Curry's a solid defender, but we can't ask him to be burdened with the offensive load that he's going to be burdened with and be asked to guard the other team's best guard. It's just not going to happen. I don't think you can have these two in the lineup for very long together unless the Warriors need a big-time offensive punch and they need to get themselves out of a hole and Buddy Hield is called upon to be the sharpshooter that helps that effort. Then I don't think that they're going to be on the court very often together. But hey, I could be wrong. Maybe Golden State wants to go the floor spacing route and they go with Buddy Hield. What I would go with in this scenario is the following. Stephen Curry starting at the point guard. I know. I've been championing this all summer long that Brandin Podziemski would be the starting shooting guard, but the more I think about it, the more I get hyped on the De'Anthony Melton train. I think he is going to be the starting shooting guard for this Golden State Warriors team. And that also allows for guys like Jonathan Kuminga and Andrew Wiggins to get more defined scoring roles in that starting lineup. De'Anthony Melton is going to be a complementary player in the offense. He's going to be your best point of attack defender at the guard position. Then you have Brandin Podziemski at the backup point guard. Buddy Hield, the backup shooting guard. I think they fit very well together. Brandin Podziemski's talked about how he's improved defensively this offseason. Buddy Hield, the sharpshooter. Brandin Podziemski's going to be looking to facilitate to him. I think this is your most compatible groups for the starting backcourt and backup backcourt for this season. In my opinion, this is how it's going to shake out. But who knows? Steve Kerr is crazy and doesn't know really how to figure out rotations early on in the season. What we do know is whoever finishes the best will be the starter. And what I mean by that is it doesn't really matter who starts the game. It matters who finishes it. And whoever ends up finishing games for the Golden State Warriors will probably end up being the starter for the long term. So, in my opinion, I think that's going to be De'Anthony Melton because at the end of games, you're going to need to tighten up that defense and you're going to need to hang your hat on being able to guard one-on-one. De'Anthony Melton is your best option to go and get that done. Now, a name we haven't talked about today, and it's unfortunate that this is the case because Steph didn't mention him, Steve Kerr didn't mention him. Where's Moses Moody at? Golden State Warriors media team hasn't even mentioned him. They really haven't been taking funny pictures or doing any funny gimmicks on media day with Moses Moody because he's probably the odd man out. And I think that's so unfortunate because this guy deserves to play. He's a great young 3-and-D player who has untapped potential, and you're probably going to, ostracize yourself from him by not putting him in the rotation this season. He's the fifth guard, it seems now, on this team, and that is an unfortunate reality for a guy who I think could really positively impact winning down the line and be a Warrior for a long time. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case right now, and this might be his last season in Golden State. But with that being said, get creative for me down in the comment section. Predict Golden State's starting five for the 2024-25 NBA season. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Am I an idiot? Am I so wrong about what the starting five is going to look like? Let me know down in the comment section. And as always, make sure you are subscribed to Golden State Warriors Today by Chat Sports. We're going to be bringing you Golden State Warriors content all season long like nobody else on YouTube. So make sure you are along for the ride. YouTube.com/WarriorsTV. We'll see you in the next one. Let's go Dubs.